It is awesome to be here with you today. It's been an eventful day. I was woken up this morning at 4:15 a.m. to tell me that my flight had been canceled and I couldn't be here. But I went ahead and was persistent, went to the airport and convinced them to put me on a flight. Then I sat on a tarmac for about an hour with mechanical issues, but nonetheless we're here, excited to be here. Appreciate Jordan having us in at EBA. It's an honor to be a part of your clinic on a day that is considered, I guess, National Coaches Day here in Canada. So that is an honor for me to be here today. I've been fortunate, had something like 450, almost 450 wins over my career. Been in 9 NCAA tournaments, 2 Final Fours, and the one thing that has been consistent, you know, I've had terrific players. Obviously, the better your players, the better coach you're going to be. Had terrific players. I've had outstanding coaching staffs, but the one common denominator over all those years and the opportunity for success has been our programs have always been founded in defense. And I think defense is what wins for you. Now, I feel like going out to clinics and those kind of things that I'm like, I'm like an evangelist for great team defense, and I'm preaching the gospel of team defense. And it's hard today because kids don't want to play defense. I think probably it's more a product of their parents. You know as well as I know that most parents would rather their son or daughter be all country, all state, all district, all conference, whatever it is, as opposed to your team winning a championship. I tell our guys we should have a fundraiser. We should take our players for what we think they're worth in terms of their value as a player and sell them for what their parents think they're worth in regards to their value as a player. We'd probably make a lot of money. I want a couple house cleaning things before I get into my topic. I want to get it in pretty quick because I want to cover a lot of stuff with you. The first thing is this. I think when I go to clinics, my job is to write everything in. So when you're at a clinic, I think your job is to write everything in. Stanford did a study of the 500 richest people in America and why were they successful. And the one common denominator of all those people were they were meticulous note takers. So I really like to write everything down. With that being said, understand this. Get all the good ideas, but you can't use them all. Pick what fits you. Pick what works for you. I'd like to ask you, along with that, is to save your questions for the end of our presentation so that I can get through my entire subject. I'd like to ask you to take maybe a page, maybe the back of your notebook, or tear out a separate page, and as I go through this, if there's a question you have, write it down. I want to answer everything you have. I want to make sure you leave here today understanding what we do, and if there's something we can help you with, that we do that. So please write that down. I always like to have at the bottom of that page things that I know I want to implement. So if there's something that I do want to add, I'll write that at the bottom of the page so that I know that I have it. I think that you can have anything that you want. You can have anything you want, but you can't have everything. So when I put that in context of basketball, you go to clinics and you think, oh, this is great, this is great, this is great. But you can't do it all. You've got to do what fits you. And you can only do, I think teams are only going to be good at 3 or 4 things at the most. And so again, for us, it has been our defense. I would hope if you came to see us practice, that you would leave the practice and you'd say these things. It's obvious that shot selection, taking care of the basketball, and great team defense are of paramount importance to Delta State University. That's who we are, and that's what we're about. We've picked those 3 things. We're going to take great shots. Shot selection is extremely important. You know, coaches, I know it's a little different for you guys here. When I speak in the States, and coaches will say something about, well, we don't have a shot clock. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You've got a shot clock. It's 8 minutes long. That's how long the quarters are for games in the States. But you have a shot clock. Now, in college basketball, we have a 35-second clock. In FIBA, I know you've got a 24-second clock. In AAU, most of the time, you don't have a shot clock. It's amazing to me, games I go to, you think teams are playing with a 10-second shot clock. We want to take great shots. The second thing is taking care of the basketball. We call it sureness. You know, we had practice the other day. I think our guys threw it to every empty bleacher, every empty seat in our Coliseum. And it takes time, but we're going to emphasize that. Take care of the ball. And then last thing, great team defense. Now, with that being said, this is a deal that there's a few things I've learned in my 30 years of coaching, 27 as a head coach. One of them is, I'm sure you've heard this, probably heard it today several times. It's not what you teach, it's what you emphasize. It's not what you teach. One of the most profound statements I ever heard several years ago from Coach Knight. It's not what you teach, it's what you emphasize. We emphasize defense in everything we do. Who we recruit. Who plays, who doesn't play. You walk in our team room, the first sign you see is a big sign that says defense. On each of our lockers, each of our players' lockers, it says nation's #1 defense. That's our goal. We want to lead the nation in defense. Everything we do, every decision we make is going to be made and predicated upon how we can make our defense better. So, obviously, we put a ton of thought into our defensive play. Consistency in your approach is key. One of the things we're going to talk about, we don't force the ball baseline, we don't force it middle, but we do tell our players, you cannot get deep to the baseline. We're kind of going back in time a little bit. When I first started as a player, that's what we were taught. And everybody taught force it sideline baseline. We don't force it. I know it's semantics to a degree, but we tell our players you cannot get deep baseline. That would be counterproductive for me to put something in to our defense. Like, for instance, something I really like from watching the NBA and going to coaches' clinics and watching college teams, a ball screen that happens on the side, forcing the ball handler away from the screen to the baseline and using your big to protect the basket is great, but it doesn't fit what we do in our defense. So you have to be consistent. I hope I've illustrated that properly. I've had the good fortune, I've taken over 3 different programs in the last 3 years. I was at Tuscaloosa College for a number of years. We were very successful. I went to West Virginia Wesleyan last year. Took a team that had won most games they had won in their schools last 25 years, won their first NCAA tournament game. But the thing I was the most proud of is we took a team that had been at the bottom of the conference in defense, in points allowed and defensive field goal percentage and 3-point field goal percentage. And in that short period of time, we led our league in all 3 of those categories. All 3 of those categories. So again, it's creating a culture. And every time you take over a program, whether it's an elementary school or a high school or a club team, you're creating a culture. Your players will know what you're emphasizing. They'll know what's important to you. A couple things I really like that I heard this past year. The first thing is from Doc Rivers. And this has been really applicable to me in taking over programs. It seems so simplistic, and yet it's so tough sometimes to get these guys to understand this. If you're going to be successful, if you're going to have an opportunity to win at a very high level, then you've got to have a team. And I hate this word, but it's true today, and you just have to accept it. You've got to have a team that's got to be 100% and totally invested buying in to the coach, the system, and the mission. The coach, the system, and the mission. But it's up to you to sell that. To understand that you are the coach, you are, and it has to be, in my mind, it has to be a dictatorship. You have to sell, you have to coach, you have to motivate, but at the end of the day, there's one voice, and that's your voice. Now, I will say this, I look for my team, and I'll get to this just in a second, my veterans, my seniors, they've earned the right. I'm going to listen to them. I like to hear what they think and where they're coming from. But you are the coach, and they have to understand that. The second thing, the system. You're deciding how you're going to play. They're not. You're deciding how they're going to play. And it's important that they buy into that. And then third, the mission. What is your goal? Now, I think it's important that they have input in that goal, and that it becomes your goal and their goal, our team's goal, not just yours. But again, it's 100% buy-in to the coach, the system, and the mission. Taking over the program the last 3 years, this has been extremely important. I think you need to have a partnership with your best player. You think about Belichick and Brady. When Joe Torre was managing the Yankees, and Derek Jeter, the relationship those two had. Phil Jackson with the Bulls, and Michael Jordan. So it's important, I think, that you have a partnership with your best player, and that you guys are on the same page. And if you have a good relationship and a partnership with your best player, then the buy-in for everybody else becomes so much easier because they will follow that player. But with that being said, understand this. You must coach your best player hard. Your other players have to see that. You have to coach your best player hard. Okay, let's talk about the Packline defense, which is what we do. I want to give you a couple thoughts. I'm going to bring these guys out and show you the whole, and then we're going to work through some drills within each of those thoughts. Ask yourself these questions. I'd like for you to write these down because I think they're important about your defense. Will your defense allow you to beat the best teams in your league? Will your defense allow you to beat the best teams in your league? You know, if you're a pressing defense, you may not be able to beat the best teams in your league. Because the best teams in your league are going to be really good with the basketball. And for us, we always look at what do we have to do, and we want to compete. The reason I went to Delta State is I know Delta State provides us with an opportunity to compete at a national level in Division II basketball. So what I look at is how can we beat the best teams in the country? I'm not going to beat the best teams in the country pressing. Years ago when I was at California University of Pennsylvania, which is when I first started entertaining the ideas of the Packline defense, we were a pressure defense. We were up the line, on the line, we denied everything, we forced the baseline, and we would force our opponents into an average of about 22 to 25 turnovers per game. But as we got into conference play, and we started playing the best teams in our league, all of a sudden we couldn't force those turnovers. And it hurt us twofold. It hurt us because we weren't getting the easy baskets produced by the turnovers, but now we were having to go down and run offense for an extended period of time to get good shots, and we couldn't do that because we hadn't done it all year long, because we scored so easily off of our opponents' turnovers. So, does your defense afford you the opportunity to beat the best teams in your league? Does your defense, number two, provide you with the opportunity to win on the road? Can you win on the road with your defense? We all know that winning, it isn't about on the road at home. Winning is in the paint. Winning is getting to the foul line. And I think it's a great misconception today that the three-point shot is great. And we've certainly saw the implications in this year's Olympic Games of what the three-point shot can do. But if you don't get to the free throw line, the three-point shot is fool's gold. You must get to the free throw line. So conversely, we want a defense that's going to keep you off of or out of the paint. Now, I love the integrity of maintaining our individual matchups in our defense. I love the individual accountability of our defense. So we've taken those two things that we desperately want, but also incorporated it into providing us with a defense, much like a zone, that's not going to allow you to get the paint to score. Does your defense, number three, does your defense improve as the season goes along?